September 23rd, 2001. 12 days after the towers fell. Naval Weapons Station Earl, Colts Neck, New Jersey. The base sits quiet behind its fences, a flat, unremarkable stretch of land along the Raritan Bay. But this base does something specific and essential. Every ship in the Atlantic Fleet, every destroyer, every carrier, every vessel moving through the cold gray water of the eastern seaboard gets its munitions resupplied from here. Earl is the artery. Pull it, and the fleet goes unarmed. On this morning, 12 days after the largest attack on American soil in living memory, every system at Earl should be running at maximum readiness. Every screen lit, every network humming. Every sailor and civilian employee logged in, coordinating, tracking ship positions, routing ammunition orders to vessels already moving toward combat staging. Instead, the screens are black. All of them, 300 computers, across the entire base, cannot boot up. The network is not degraded, it is down. Completely, totally, inexplicably offline. Military personnel try to restart machines and get nothing. They escalate to command, and command escalates further. And the answer that comes back is the same at every level. We don't know why. For the next 7 days, NWS Earl operates in near silence. Sailors rely on paper. The sophisticated digital logistics chain that keeps the Atlantic Fleet armed reverts to something resembling the Second World War. It takes 3 more weeks before the base can send and receive external email. It takes nearly a month before Earl can automatically route naval message traffic again. The world is looking for Osama bin Laden in the mountains of Afghanistan. Nobody, at that moment, is looking for the man who just did this. He is in London. He is unemployed. He is 35 years old. He is wearing pajamas. And he was not trying to attack the United States Navy. He was looking for UFOs. If someone broke into a military base 12 days after September 11th and knocked out the entire network, you would call that an act of war. You would imagine a foreign intelligence service, years of planning, sophisticated tools, deep resources. What if the truth was a man sitting alone at a desktop computer in North London, using a dial-up connection, and a password field he simply left blank? Why did he do it? How did he get inside? And how did the most powerful military institution on Earth spend 10 years trying to bring him to justice and fail? This is the story of Gary McKinnon. This is the story of Solo. London, 1999. Gary McKinnon is 33 years old and he has no job. This is not temporary. This is not a rough patch between contracts. Gary has the technical knowledge he trained as a systems administrator. He understands networks. He can navigate the architecture of a computer system the way a plumber reads pipes. But something about the structured world of employment does not quite fit the shape of his mind. Offices feel wrong. Schedules feel wrong. The expectation that he will show up at the same place, the same time, perform the same duties within the same defined perimeter, it sits on him like a coat that belongs to somebody else. So he doesn't work. He stays home. He lives with his girlfriend in a flat in Hornsey, in the north of London, a quiet, unglamorous part of the city where the houses are narrow and the streets are lined with betting shops and phone repair places. The flat is small. The computer takes up most of the space that matters. At night, when London goes quiet, Gary goes deep. He has been obsessed with a particular idea for years now. Not a hobby obsession is the right word. Gary believes, with the quiet and complete certainty of someone who has thought about nothing else for a very long time, that the United States government is hiding 2 things. The first, documentation of contact with extraterrestrial life. The second, a free energy technology, something suppressed because it would disrupt the interests of people powerful enough to suppress it. In Gary's mind, this is not conspiracy theorizing. This is research. He has read the testimonies of military whistleblowers. He has studied FOIA releases, and more importantly, the patterns of what has not been released. He has followed the trail of retired Air Force officers who claim to have seen craft that cannot be explained by known aeronautical engineering. He is not, by his own reckoning, crazy. He is thorough. And he has a technical skill that most people who share his obsession do not have. He understands computers. He understands networks. He understands that if these documents exist, and he is certain they do, they would be stored somewhere, on a server, behind an IP address. Accessible, in principle, to anyone who could find the door. Then, one evening in 1999, he reads something on a Usenet forum. Someone posts a claim that sounds too simple to be real. Military computers of the United States servers belonging to the Army, Navy, Air Force, NASA, the Department of Defense are running Microsoft Windows. They are connected to the internet, and a significant number of them have no password. Gary reads this and feels something shift. He opens a terminal window. He runs a basic network scanner. He finds a military IP range. He tries to connect to a machine. He types a username. Something simple, something like administrator. He leaves the password field empty. He presses enter. The machine lets him in. Gary sits back and stares at the screen for a long moment. He has just walked into a computer belonging to the United States military. No alarm, no tripwire, no challenge. The door was not locked. It was not even properly closed. He is already inside. The question that will define the next decade of his life is the one he does not stop to ask himself tonight. When a door is left open, is walking through it a crime or is it a discovery? February 2001. The first machine yields nothing about extraterrestrials. Gary searches methodically, folder by folder, clicking through the architecture of the system with the patience of a man who has nowhere else to be. He finds administrative files, network logs, bureaucratic data personnel rosters, maintenance records, system configuration documents. No UFOs, no suppressed technology. But in navigating that first machine, he sees something else. In the network logs, in the structure of the connections, he can see other machines. Machines on the same network, presumably running the same unprotected configuration. If one door was open, there is no particular reason to believe the others are locked. He pulls the thread. The second machine is the same story. From the second, he finds a path to a third. From the third, a fourth. It is like standing in a hall of mirrors, extending infinitely in every direction. Each room opens into another room. Each network reveals another network. Gary is not forcing anything. He is not picking locks. He is walking through doors that have been left open for him, one after another, with the methodical persistence of someone who genuinely believes the answer is in the next room. On each machine he enters, he installs a piece of software, remotely anywhere, not a sophisticated hacking tool, a commercially available remote administration package you can download from a company in Hungary. Once installed, it allows Gary to connect to that machine from any internet connection at any time, without going through the login process again. It is a backdoor, a permanent one. Gary is not just visiting these machines, he is moving into them. Week 1, Week 3, Month 2. The numbers accumulate with the quiet momentum of something that has no reason to stop. 10 machines. Then 20. The scanner he runs can probe 73,000 government IP addresses, checking each for the same open vulnerability, the same blank password field, the same unguarded entry point. Most are locked, but enough are not. 40 machines, 60. He is working across multiple branches simultaneously now. United States Army computers in Virginia, Navy computers in Connecticut and Maryland, NASA servers in Houston, in Greenbelt, in California. He reaches a computer at the Pentagon. He reaches the military district of Washington, the network that coordinates Army operations across the capital region. 53 Army computers, 26 Navy, 16 NASA, 1 Department of Defense, 1 Air Force. 97 machines in total, across 14 states, connected by a single thread of a vulnerability so basic it should not exist in any system that takes itself seriously. At some point during these months, Gary begins to think of himself in a particular way. He gives himself a name: Solo, the lone operator, the independent agent working outside any institution, outside any authorization, answerable only to his own sense of mission. There is something in the name that tells you everything about what is happening inside his head. Not criminal, not hacker. Solo, like a hero, operating in the space between the official story and the truth. He never sells any of the data he finds. He never extorts anyone. In his own mind, He is not a criminal. He is a researcher. A man who has found a library left unlocked, and he is reading. But he is also doing something else, something he does not fully register as damage, because he does not think of himself as damaging anything. When he installs remotely anywhere, he is altering the systems. When he copies files containing usernames and encrypted passwords, he is taking things that do not belong to him, and on several machines, the ones whose logs document his presence, he deletes those logs. He covers his tracks. If he were simply a curious man walking through an open library, he would not need to erase his footprints on the way out. April 7th, 2001. He finds a machine that is different from the others. Naval Weapons Station Earl. Port Services Computer. The system documentation makes its purpose clear. This machine monitors the identity, location, physical condition, staffing levels, battle readiness, and resupply status of Navy ships operating in and near the Earl Pier complex. In simpler terms, this computer knows where the ships are, what condition they are in, and what they need. It is a logistics nerve center for the Atlantic Fleet's ammunition supply chain. Gary installs remotely anywhere on it. He does not think about what he has just done. He has opened a permanent backdoor into a system that tracks the combat readiness of warships. He is a man in pajamas in North London. He has put his hand on something that has never been meant for his hand. He is not looking for UFOs anymore when he logs into that machine. He is just following the thread. The thread has no end, and Gary cannot bring himself to stop pulling it. He still has not found what he is looking for, but he is certain, with the unshakable certainty of a true believer, that the next machine will be different. He just needs to keep going. He just needs to go a little further. How far does a man go when he believes the truth is just one more room away? September 11th, 2001. The footage plays on every screen in the world. The first tower, the second tower. Gary watches from London, the same as everyone else, the same nausea, the same incomprehension. What Gary does not think about, in those first hours, is that he is currently logged into the military systems of the country that has just been attacked. He has backdoors open across 97 machines belonging to the United States Army, Navy, Air Force, and NASA. He has remotely anywhere installed on the Port Services computer at Naval Weapons Station Earl. He has copies of 950 passwords from that base's server taken in June, during 3 days of quiet, methodical access, 950 credentials, belonging to the people who operate the systems that track and supply the Atlantic Fleet. He has deleted the logs that would document his presence. And the United States is now, formally and urgently, at war. In the hours and days that follow, the American military goes to its highest operational tempo in decades. Networks are locked down. Security protocols are suddenly enforced with the seriousness they were always meant to carry. On Gary's screen, the machines he has been visiting for the past 8 months are still there, still connected, still running remotely anywhere, still, in a very technical sense, his. He tells himself he will stop. He tells himself the exploration, the searching, the long nights of scrolling through government directories that was something that made sense in the old world. In this new world, the calculus is different. He tells himself he will stop. He does not stop. September 23rd, 2001. Gary is in his flat in London. The flat is the same as it always is, the narrow rooms, the permanent low light, the computer taking up the space that matters. He makes tea. The kettle clicks. He pours hot water over the bag and watches the color bloom out into the water, that dark amber that means the morning is ordinary, that nothing important is about to happen. He carries the mug to his desk. He sits down. He finds the remotely anywhere connection to NWS Earl, the Port Services machine, the one installed back in April. He has the passwords he copied in June. He uses them. He is inside. He navigates to the system files. He deletes the files needed to boot the computers on the network. He deletes the logs that document his intrusion. He closes the connection. He drinks his tea. An alien movie is still playing in the background. He finishes the mug, sets it in the sink, and goes to bed. The next morning, 300 computers at Naval Weapons Station Earl cannot start up. The base responsible for arming the Atlantic Fleet 12 days after the worst attack on American soil in living memory, at the precise moment the Navy is mobilizing for operations in Afghanistan, is completely, silently, inexplicably offline. It stays offline for a week. For 3 more weeks after that, the only communication available is internal email. It takes a month before Earl can automatically route naval message traffic again. A month during which the logistics of the Atlantic Fleet's ammunition supply chain are managed by hand, on paper, the way it would have been done 50 years earlier. And on one United States Army computer somewhere in the vast network Gary has colonized over the past 8 months, he has left something else. Something no one asked him to leave. A message. In plain text, typed and saved on a government machine. U.S. foreign policy is akin to government-sponsored terrorism these days. It was not a mistake that there was a huge security stand down on September 11 last year. I am Solo. I will continue to disrupt at the highest levels. He signed it. Solo. In the mountains of Afghanistan, American forces are moving against the Taliban. Intelligence agencies on 3 continents are tracking the 10,000 threads that might lead to the architects of September 11th. Nobody is looking for Solo. Not yet. March 19th, 2002. It does not end with a dramatic raid. It ends with a knock on a door. The knock comes from the UK National High-Tech Crime Unit, working in cooperation with the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. Investigators have spent months tracing IP addresses, following network logs that survived Gary's deletions, reconstructing the path of intrusion all the way back to the connection point in North London. It is painstaking, technical, invisible work, the kind that accumulates, slowly, into something irrefutable. Gary answers the door. They take his computer. They sit him down. They ask questions under caution. Gary talks. He does not have a lawyer with him. He admits to the intrusions, to accessing the systems, to installing software, to copying files. He admits, in broad terms, to everything. What he denies is damage. He was looking at things, he says. He was reading. He was not trying to hurt anyone. He was not trying to interfere with military operations. The timing, the note, he understands how it looks. But that is not what it was. That is not who he is. My targets, he tells the investigators, were high-level U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force computers. My ultimate goal was to gain access to the U.S. military classified information network. He says he was looking for evidence of UFOs and free energy technology. He says this with the seriousness of someone who means it entirely. He is not performing remorse. He is explaining himself, because in his own internal logic, the explanation is reasonable. The investigators write it all down. What Gary does not yet understand, sitting in that room, is what the damage assessment looks like from the American side. 53 Army computers compromised. 26 Navy. 16 NASA. 1 Department of Defense. 1 Air Force. 97 systems across 14 states. The Military District of Washington rendered inoperable for 24 hours. 2,455 user accounts deleted on a single Army machine, causing those computers to reboot and become useless. At NWS Earl, 950 passwords stolen, system files destroyed, boot files deleted, 300 computers offline for a week. 4 weeks before full network functionality was restored. At a base responsible for supplying ammunition to the entire Atlantic Fleet, 12 days after September 11th. The United States Attorney puts the damage at $700,000. By the time the Virginia indictment is prepared, the figure has reached $900,000. 7 counts of fraud and related activity in connection with computers. 2 jurisdictions, Virginia and New Jersey, both filing charges. The U.S. Attorney calls it, in formal proceedings, the biggest military computer hack of all time. The biggest military computer hack of all time. Executed by a man in pajamas with a dial-up connection, looking for flying saucers. And Gary found nothing. That is the part that lands heaviest of all. No suppressed technology, no evidence of alien contact, no smoking gun, no truth that was being hidden. Whatever he hoped to find, the thing that gave the whole enterprise its moral architecture, it wasn't there. 8 months, 97 machines, 14 states. He came home empty-handed. Then the negotiations begin. November 2002, the indictments are unsealed in America. Gary's lawyer, Karen Todner, is contacted by American prosecutor Scott Stein. There are conversations by phone, in writing, in person, at meetings in London with FBI legal attaché Ed Gibson. The government of the United States wants Gary McKinnon extradited to stand trial. April 14, 2003. A meeting in London. Karen Todner is there, and Gary's barrister Edmund Lawson QC. On the other side, Stein, his superior, and Gibson. The offer is this. If Gary agrees not to contest extradition, if Gary agrees to plead guilty to 2 of the 7 counts, then a sentence of 3 to 4 years becomes likely. After serving 6 to 12 months in a minimum security facility in America, there are good prospects for repatriation to Britain. Under British remission rules, he might be released after serving half. The arithmetic works out to approximately 18 months. Total. Then home. If Gary refuses, if he contests extradition, if he fights, the prosecution pursues all 7 counts. They seek sentencing enhancements for significantly endangering national security. They do not support any application for prisoner transfer. The predicted sentence, 8 to 10 years, possibly longer. In a high-security American prison, no repatriation. 15% remission at best. 18 months or 10 years. Minimum security or maximum. Britain or America. The prosecution is also careful to explain one additional detail, one that reveals something the American government would perhaps prefer to keep quiet. The $700,000 damage figure? It is calculated by totaling the hours employees spent assessing and repairing compromised systems, multiplied by their hourly wage. It does not include the cost of the systems being unavailable while repair was happening, the actual operational disruption, the actual loss of military function. Those costs could not be precisely calculated, so they were not included. The lower number was used. If Gary pleads guilty, the prosecution is prepared to present damages in the lower bracket. They are prepared to overlook the disruption to the military district of Washington. They will not pursue the national security enhancement. They will not pursue the non-monetary harm enhancement. If he fights, everything comes back on the table. The government of the most powerful country on earth is telling a man sitting in a flat in North London, "We know things about this case we would rather not have examined in a public courtroom. We would like this to go away quietly. Here is the price of quiet." Gary takes advice from an American defense lawyer. He considers the 10 years. He considers the 18 months. He thinks about the years he has spent building the case, in his own mind, for why what he did was not what they say it was. Then he says no. No to the deal. No to the plea. No to the quiet resolution. He chooses the longest possible road through the worst possible terrain, with the least possible certainty about where it ends. What does a man believe about himself, about his own innocence, about the rightness of what he did to make a choice like that? October 2012. 10 years is a long time to be in a corridor with no exit visible. The legal process that begins with Gary's refusal in April 2003 extends, year by year, through the institutional machinery of 2 countries' justice systems, accumulating hearings, rulings, appeals, and counter-appeals with the slow inevitability of a glacier moving toward the sea. The United States formally requests extradition in October 2004. Gary is arrested in June 2005. The extradition hearing begins in July 2005 and runs through multiple sessions into 2006. The district judge sends the case to the Home Secretary in May 2006. The Home Secretary orders extradition in July 2006. Gary appeals. The Divisional Court dismisses the appeal in April 2007. Gary appeals again. The case reaches the House of Lords, the highest court in the land. 5 law lords hear the arguments. The central question: whether the manner of the American government's plea, bargaining the explicit threat about repatriation, the stark choice between 18 months and 10 years constitutes an abuse of process sufficient to stay the extradition proceedings. Gary's lawyers argue it does. The disparity between the 2 sentences is not the product of legal reasoning, it is the product of leverage. The threat to withhold support for prisoner transfer is a punishment for exercising the right to contest extradition. The American government has attempted to coerce a British citizen into surrendering legal rights protected under British and European law. On July 30, 2008, The House of Lords hands down its decision. The appeal is dismissed. The extradition order stands. The law lords find, in essence, that the plea bargaining in this case pushed against the edges of what is acceptable, but did not cross the line into abuse of process. The Americans were, within the limits of law, entitled to offer what they offered and threaten what they threatened. Gary has fought his way to the highest court in his country and lost. But the law is not the only thing standing between Gary McKinnon and a courtroom in Virginia. The Extradition Act, 2003, includes a provision allowing the Home Secretary to block extradition on human rights grounds. During the years of legal battle, something about Gary's case has come into focus that was not fully visible at the beginning. A diagnosis: Asperger's syndrome, a condition on the autism spectrum, characterized by intense and narrow focus, difficulty with social interpretation, and a rigidity of thinking that makes the interior of a person's own logic feel far more real than the exterior world. It is not something Gary invented for the courts. It is real, and it is documented. And when you know it is there, everything about this story reads differently. The fixation on UFOs and government secrecy, not a hobby, but a total, enveloping obsession of the kind that Asperger's minds generate. The inability to fully register that what he was doing had consequences for other people, not callousness, but a cognitive architecture that made the interior purpose feel more immediate than its external effects. The note left on the Army computer, not a calculated threat, but an expression of a worldview so completely internalized, it overrode any awareness of how it would look from outside. Gary was not, in any clinical sense, fully processing the reality of what he was doing as he was doing it. This does not dissolve the facts. The Navy base went down. The passwords were stolen. The logs were deleted. The note was real. But it complicates the portrait of the dangerous, calculating adversary that the American prosecutors kept reaching for. The clinical assessments are not equivocal. Doctors who examine Gary during these years document a man whose mental state has been severely damaged by a decade of legal jeopardy. They document a risk, not a speculation, a clinical risk of suicide if extradition proceeds. In October 2012, Home Secretary Theresa May makes her decision. She blocks the extradition. The basis is Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights, the prohibition on inhuman or degrading treatment. Extraditing Gary McKinnon, given his diagnosed Asperger's syndrome, given the severity of his depression, given the documented risk to his life, would violate those rights. The United States, after 10 years of legal pursuit, 2 grand jury indictments, extradition hearings, divisional court appeals, and a House of Lords judgment, does not get Gary McKinnon. He does not go to America. He does not stand trial. He stays in London. And he is never prosecuted in Britain either. The Crown Prosecution Service concludes that a British prosecution would not be in the public interest. Gary McKinnon, the man the United States Attorney called the perpetrator of the biggest military computer hack of all time, faces no consequences. Zero. And the machines that let him in, the 97 government computers with their blank password fields, their unguarded entry points, those machines were quietly fixed, updated, secured. The vulnerability that Gary walked through for 8 months across 14 states did not appear in any press release. There was no national reckoning about why the most powerful military in human history had left its servers accessible to anyone who could type "administrator" and press enter. The official damage assessment noted, in careful technical language, that the compromised machines were running Windows with default configurations connected directly to the internet, with no password protection. Gary McKinnon did not pick a lock. He did not breach a wall. He found a door standing open, in a building full of doors standing open, and he walked through all of them. The question the system did not want examined in a public courtroom, the one the plea bargain was partly designed to forestall, was the question of who was responsible for the door. Gary still talks about what he was looking for. He speaks about it the way people speak about the thing that organized their life, the thing that gave the searching its meaning even when the searching found nothing. He speaks about a file he encountered on a NASA server. Somewhere in that long year of nights in North London, logged into government machines, reading directories, looking for the thing he was certain was there, he found an image file. It was downloading slowly. Dial-up is slow, and the file was large. And what was rendering, line by line, as the image came through, had a shape, a geometry, something that did not match the catalog of any aircraft he had ever seen documentation of. And then the connection dropped. The image never finished loading. Gary saved what he had: a partial file, a fragment, a beginning without an end, and he never went back. Events overtook him. The clock ran out. The knock came, and then the years came, and the courts came, and the partial image stayed partial. He has never been able to verify what it was. He has never been able to return to that server. He does not know, and will not know, whether what he saw beginning to form on that screen in the dark of a North London flat was the thing he spent 8 months and 10 years of his life searching for. That is perhaps where the story actually lives. Not in the indictments or the courtrooms or the geopolitical machinery of extradition law, but in the gap between what Gary believed was there and what he was able to find. In the space between the blank password field and the empty directory. In the distance between a door standing open and anything worth finding on the other side. He is solo. He disrupted at the highest levels, exactly as he promised. He found nothing. He lost 10 years, and he never stopped believing. The image is still out there, unfinished on a server that no longer exists as he knew it, or one that does, complete, or deleted, or never what he thought it was. We don't know. Gary doesn't know. Maybe that's always been the point. Maybe the door was the story all along, not what was behind it.